Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah al-Kareem. Welcome back for another episode of Life's Adornments, where we'll be discussing the importances of child rearing, the trials and tribulations, their virtues, and most importantly, what is to be said about child rearing from the Quran and from the Sunnah, that we may keep in line this tradition and that we may rear our children in a way that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in accordance to the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. To help with this endeavors, we have Sheikh Assim Luqman al-Hakeem, who is a teacher at Zad Academy, a teacher at KIU, and he has been an imam and teacher for over 30 years. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and jazakumullah khair for having me.
Ameen wa iyak. Thank you for coming, Sheikh.
Barakallah.
Today we would like to begin our session with talking about breastfeeding and its importances.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala al-mab'uthi rahmatan lil alameen, Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een, amma ba'du. In Islam, you'll find that Sharia, the law of this religion, gives all their due right. So each individual in Islam has rights, as each individual has obligations. Now, children who are newly born don't have any obligations because they're not accountable for their actions due to their young age. But they have rights. And these rights, unfortunately, don't have advocates to demand them and to protect these children. This is where the beauty of Islam is illustrated. When we find that Islam puts regulations for this child to ensure a safe haven, a righteous upbringing, and taking care of this child's welfare. So even when we look at the way a child is brought up, not only through breastfeeding, but also through personal hygiene, also through signs and characteristics of nature, Islam covers this so that a child grows up in an accepted manner and fashion to be a healthy individual and to be a productive individual. It goes without saying that when a child is born, he is in deep need of being fed properly. He's in need of nutritions to grow. And this is in all types of newborns, animals, fish, humans, mammals, whatever, they all need this. Islam governs how a child is taken care of, and it distributes the responsibilities. So a child is born. The mother can say, it's my responsibility, and the mother can say, I don't want any responsibility. The father can do the same. Yet Islam tells us, Islam forces the father to be responsible for financial provision. Definitely he's not going to be breastfeeding his child because physically this is not possible. Now the mother who conceived and gave birth to that child, Islamically is not obliged to breastfeed her own child. And this might be shocking to a lot of the viewers, but this is the Sharia law. This is what is mentioned in Quran. If there is a dispute between the spouses, then another woman would be responsible for suckling that child, and it's the father's duty to give her money. So he's actually renting her services to take care, to suckle his child. The mother is not obliged to do that. But in normal cases, this is what is happening, mothers by default usually take care of their children and give them breastfeeding. So Islam has governed this. And not only that, Islam has also governed the minimum and the maximum time allocated for suckling. So the minimum, there's no minimum. If the child can suckle for 3 months, 4 months, and then eat solid food, which is difficult usually, but if this happens, there's no problem. The maximum, it's an issue of dispute among scholars. Some say that 2 years, 24 months, is the max. But the most authentic opinion is that 30 months, which is 2 years and a half, is the max. Unfortunately, we have mothers that go on to suckle their kids until they're 4 or 5 years of age. And I've seen such an incidents which is quite weird and not natural at all. So scholars say that 2.5 years is the max for such suckling.
Okay. Now, is there a preference in as far as a mother suckling her child as opposed to another woman? Is there like a certain wisdom? I've read certain places before that said something about they're creating a certain specific relationship between a mother and a child, things that are passed down from her DNA to the child, such and so forth.
There is a lot of benefits, and it is scientifically proven that a child finds only tranquility and comfort when his mother breastfeeds him, simply because he was in her womb for 9 months. He's been hearing the same heartbeat. He's been in the same environment. So when she suckles him, he feels the comfort and the tranquility. But in regards to human DNA and the antiviruses and the strength that a child gets from the breast milk, it seems that it's in both. And it is also important to note that breastfeeding from someone who's not the mother has a lot of rulings in Islam.
Okay.
So if a person is suckled by another woman 5 meals, when he is within the age of 24 months, he becomes a son to that woman. And this cascades to all of her relatives. So her husband becomes his father because he's the generator of such milk. And their siblings, whether born before suckling this child or after, they are his siblings by default. And this is why the Prophet said, يَحْرُمُ مِنَ الرِّضَاعِ مَا يَحْرُمُ مِنَ النَّسَبِ, which means that through suckling, the kinship and the relationships of mahram and non-mahram is cascaded exactly as it is cascaded from real kinship. So yes, he becomes a son to that woman who suckled him 5 times or more when he was below 24 months of age, and her sisters become his aunts, her brothers become his uncles, and so on.
Now, prior to this, the age, the maximum age, if a mother were to feed her child without breast milk, like for example, we have Similac and certain things, is there any Islamic ruling on someone leaving breast milk and replacing that with Similac or powdered milk or something of this nature?
There's nothing in Islam that prohibits this, or even more, there's nothing in Islam that does not recommend this. So it's an issue of personal preference. Some women don't find the milk that is sufficient for the children, so they are forced to go for formula milk. Other women don't want to change their physique and outer appearance. So in order to keep and maintain their figure, they don't want to. This is up to their preference. There's no pressure in Islam, alhamdulillah. It is always recommended to go through natural breastfeeding because this is way, way better, healthier for a strong child. but again, there's no recommendation, no prohibition, and it's according to the preference of the mother herself.
Okay. Even with the advent of technology, in terms of breast pump, milk bags, and things of this nature, is there any ruling with regards to that?
Are you referring to pumping milk out of the mother or general milk banks?
Both.
Okay,
Yes.
there's an issue of a difference of issues here, because if a woman manages to pump out milk from her breasts and put it in a bottle and feeds it to her son or to anyone else, this is suckling, because it's human milk that is given. Milk banks, on the other hand, is totally prohibited. The concept of milk banks is every woman who has given birth and has milk, she goes and donates milk. Such a donation, when mixed with other milk, means that there might be a prohibition of a woman becoming his mother through suckling, and we don't know that. And this means that her daughters are his brother, and this is totally prohibited to participate, to take in Islam.
So the issue is through what develops then to be a mahram for someone, and they wouldn't know.
This is the issue of mahram, is what mainly people use suckling for.
Yes.
So me and my brother, we have children, and they're just newborn, and we live in a joint family, or we love one another. He's my brother, he's my sibling, and we don't want in the future to have problems with the children. So I instruct my wife to breastfeed his children, and he instructs his wife to breastfeed my children. So my children now are his children through suckling, and his are mine through suckling. When they grow up, they're siblings and brothers and sisters.
Excellent. Thank you so much for this information, Sheikh. We're going to pause for a break and continue afterwards with some more questions around breastfeeding and suckling, things of this nature, inshallah. Viewers, stay tuned for our second segment of Life's Adornments, where we're discussing the topic of breastfeeding and all its virtues and all the rulings that come along with this. Stay tuned, inshallah ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to our second segment of Life's Adornments, where we are discussing breastfeeding, all its virtues, its benefits, its rulings, and how do we go about breastfeeding, providing breast milk for the child in a way that is according to the Quran and the Sunnah. So we would like to pick up, as the Sheikh, you mentioned meals, 5 meals. That a child that has 5 meals then becomes the mahram of the one that provides the meal. So what are the specifications, the details of 5 meals? If it's less than 5 meals, does it still count? How do you go about navigating that?
So anyone who does not know Islam would think that you guys are talking about appetizers, main course, and desserts. This is a meal. No, we're talking about a meal when suckling a child who's below 24 years of age. In Arabic, it is rad'ah, and it's the same rhyme as wajbah, and wajbah means meal. So the scholars have differed in identifying a meal. Some of them said that if a child takes his mother's breast and starts to suckle, and then he leaves it on his own, either to take a breath or to look at something, and then goes back again, this is one meal. By their definition, he could finish 5 meals in less than half an hour, which is not authentic. The most authentic is that when a child who's hungry takes the breast and suckles until he's had enough, this is a meal. And this means that he may finish in a day or 2 or more. Now, having said that, the origin of the tahrim, of the prohibition, was 10 meals would make a person, an individual, a child, a son of the woman who suckled him. This was initially revealed in the Quran. This was a verse. Then it was abrogated from the Quran from 10 to 5, as Mother Aisha said. Then it was abrogated from the recitation of the Quran, and it was kept as a ruling. So abrogation in Islam is found in the Quran. ما ننسخ من آية أو ننسيها نأتي بخير منها أو مثلها. So abrogation is different types. Either one, taking away the ruling while the recitation remains, or taking away the recitation while the ruling remains. 3, taking both ruling and recitation. So for the first, taking the ruling out while the recitation remains, as in Allah saying, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تَقْرَبُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَأَنْتُمْ سُكَارَى. O you who believe, do not approach prayer while you are intoxicated. Now this was abrogated when intoxications were prohibited totally, but the recitation remains. The ruling is no longer, it's abrogated. The opposite, which is the ruling remains, but the recitation does not exist, this applies to 5 sucklings, 5 meals prohibits, as in the hadith of Aisha. So the ruling now is there, but there is no ayah in the Quran if you look for it. It was abrogated. Likewise, the hadith, لو كان لابن آدم واديا من ذهب لابتغى إليه ثانيا. If the son of Adam would possess a valley of gold, he would seek a second one. This was an ayah, but it was abrogated. So there's no recitation, but the ruling remains. The third type of abrogation is when the ruling and the ayah itself are abrogated. They're not found, and the ruling is not implemented. And the scholars give the well-known famous example, which is 10 meals of suckling prohibit. So the ruling was abrogated, and it is what? 5. And the recitation is abrogated because it's not in the Quran any longer. So this is what we look for in the suckling that prohibits, that it is a meal. The child takes the breast or the bottle, providing that the mother filled it up with her milk, and he consumes whatever fills him up and stops. This is a meal.
Excellent. Now, with regards to that, you mentioned 2 things. One, the time period, which is under 24 months.
Correct.
As
The
you
Prophet said,
Salam.
that the prohibition is within 2 years.
2 years.
24 months.
Yes.
So if the child is 24 months and a week, and the 5th suckling was after he finished 24 months, this does not prohibit. It has to be 5.
Second thing. So there was a masala, issue regarding if a man drank the breast milk of his wife by mistake.
A lot of, unfortunately, Muslims ask about this. Intimacy between the spouses, everything is allowed except for what Allah has prohibited. So when a man says, what's the ruling on a husband fondling with his wife and maybe by mistake or even intentionally drinking some of her milk? Would the prohibition be applied here? The answer is no, because he is over 2 years of age. But is it normal for grown-up men to do such a thing? This is debatable.
Okay. Moving forward, we have talking about things that would assist a woman in producing the flow of breast milk. Are there things that she could eat, or things that she should do,
all of these things are not mentioned in the Sunnah. So the default is it's halal,
Okay.
unless proven to be medically harmful. So if there is a type of food or a type of a medication that would generate breast milk for a woman who wants to suckle her child, there's no problem in doing this. Likewise with all other ingredients that people consume. So someone says, Sheikh, I have these capsules, and they claim that it can help me grow few inches or centimeters taller. Is this permissible? Let's look at the science. If doctors say that this is not harmful, there's nothing to prevent you from doing this. Isn't this sheikh changing the creation of Allah? No, this is not. This is something that enhances you, whether it makes your bicep bigger or your physique different. As long as it's not harmful or haram ingredient, the sky is the limit.
Okay. Now we mentioned the tahniq in the first stage, where the date or something sweet is put into the child's mouth. After the period of breastfeeding, are there any foods or any prophetic things from prophetic tradition that a child should take in this stage to increase them in, say, their health or memory? Or
I don't recall anything in the Sharia.
Yeah.
It's just normal food.
Yeah.
So after they're breastfed, they can eat bread, they can eat vegetables, they can eat meat, whatever they can consume. This is good for them, and it helps them. And it would be good if you can seek the advice of a medical doctor.
Yes.
But generally speaking, honey, dates, and milk are part of the ingredients that the menu
Yeah.
at the time of the Prophet ﷺ was always containing them.
Yeah. Was there an issue or incident rather with our mother Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, where she wanted to breastfeed someone in order for them to learn from her? Was this a situation?
Okay, akhi, you open the Pandora box
Oh,
again.
probably.
What's with you with the Pandora box? Okay, see, unfortunately, people with no knowledge tend to jump the gun. And we are enemies of what we don't know. So many times we are impulsive in taking decisions. And this is not part of being a student of knowledge.
Yes.
You have to refrain. Don't express your emotions. Look into it objectively, not with your own notions and preconceived ideas. Be open to everything. Study it, then come up with a conclusion. So what is this issue? Most people in the Muslim world, due to their ignorance, make fun. They said, I have a driver that I've brought from far away country, and now he's a house driver, and I'd like my wife to breastfeed him so that he becomes her son. Well, what are you talking about? Yeah, there's a sunnah about it. You don't play around with sunnah.
Yes.
So first of all, you have to fear Allah. Second of all, you have to refer to the sources, authentic sources of the sunnah. Third of all, you have to consult scholars to explain to you what is difficult for you to understand. But to make fun and ridicule, this may take you out of the fold of Islam. So people tend to object. No, I don't accept this. This is not logical. This is not up to you and me. Who set the time age of 2 years to prohibit this individual so that he becomes a mahram to his mother who suckled him? It's Allah Azza wa Jal. It's the Prophet ﷺ. So the issue of prohibition, whether it's 18 months, 24 months, 30 months, 60 years, is not in my hand or yours. It's up to Allah Azza wa Jal to decide. Now, having introduced it through this way, we go back to the prophetic sayings and teachings. In Sahih al-Bukhari, it was reported that there was a man by the name of Abu Hudhayfa. He's a great companion from Mecca, migrated, so he's a muhajir. His father is Utbah ibn Rabi'ah, one of the vicious enemies of Islam who was killed in the Battle of Badr. Utbah ibn Rabi'ah, Shayba ibn Rabi'ah, all of them were killed. So Abu Hudhayfa accepted Islam. His father did not like this. His sister did not like this. Hind bint Utbah, the wife of Abu Sufyan, the mother of Muawiyah. May Allah be pleased with them. She accepted Islam, all of them accepted Islam. Abu Hudhayfa had a slave boy, a child whom he bought, and then he loved that child so much he set him free. So the child's name was Salim, and Salim was Mawla Abu Hudhayfa. This is a connection.
Yes.
And they both migrated to Medina. Salim was one of the most learned people in Quran. And the Prophet ﷺ instructed the Muslims to take the Quran from Zayd ibn Thabit, from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud ibn Abd, from Salim Mawla Abu Hudhayfa and Ubay ibn Ka'b. These four. So Salim used to lead the prayer, and behind him was Umar ibn Khattab. Before the Prophet migrated to Medina, it shows you how learned he was.
Yes.
Now Salim was a young boy. Abu Hudhayfa had a wife. Her name is Suhayla bint Suhayl. If I'm not mistaken, she is the sister of Amr ibn Suhayl, the one who negotiated the Sulh al-Hudaybiyah. But this is not our topic. When she noticed that Salim was about to reach puberty, she noticed that Abu Hudhayfa, her husband, was not easy in Salim coming in and going out while she's in her normal clothes and home, because now he's becoming a man. He's reached puberty. So she complained to the Prophet ﷺ, and she said, "O Prophet of Allah, we raised him up, and because we raised him up, I don't like the look at Abu Hudhayfa." Now, for this, the Prophet ﷺ told her to breastfeed him. So she said, "He's a grown-up man. What do you mean breastfeed him?" She said, "Breastfeed him 5 meals." Now, this is an authentic hadith. We have no argument with that. You don't jump to conclusions and say, how did he was breastfed? Is it directly? But she's non-mahram. No, she could have put it in a cup and he could have drank of it. This is an exceptional case, not found in anywhere else in the Sharia. And this is why Mother Aisha, whenever she wanted people to come in and learn from her, she used to instruct her nieces to breastfeed them in the same fashion, not directly through a cup or a glass. And the rest of the mothers of the believers rejected that. They said, no, this is a specific case only designed and tailor-made for Salim and Abu Hudhayfa, not for anyone else. So if you understand this, you get to understand how things move and go on.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh, for that information. Very beneficial knowledge to know, mashallah. We thank you again for this episode, for the things that you're giving us of wisdom and your knowledge. We're going to end this episode here, inshallah ta'ala, and continue in our next episode of Life's Adornments. Thank you, viewers, for tuning in. We hope that you receive much of benefit. Inshallah ta'ala, until next time, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.